Hey, man, I'm just pumped to be here tonight, all the way in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got to admit something tonight. This is actually my first time ever being in Tahlequah. I've lived in Oklahoma pretty much my entire life. I'm born and bred Oklahoma boy, but this is my first time in Tahlequah, man. So well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's a really cool little town, dude. I got to go eat at the grill earlier today, and then I got to go to a coffee shop, The Drip. Anybody ever been there? I got coffee drinkers in the house tonight. Yes, blessings on you. I've become like this coffee snob since I've moved to Oklahoma City. Like, Starbucks isn't good enough for me anymore, okay? If you've ever been to Oklahoma City, there's like coffee shops absolutely everywhere. And they're amazing coffee shops. And it's like gourmet, like legit, real coffee. And like I become like this snob. In fact, I was at a place with a youth pastor buddy of mine probably just a few months ago. And we go to this coffee shop. Everybody's been talking about it. And he's like, man, you need to go try this place. It's totally awesome. And I felt like such a diva when I walked in there. And so I walk in there and I order my drink and I'm like asking them, so do you guys have half and half? No, we don't have any half and half here. Oh, strike one. So that's one place. And then I go to the sweeteners and I ask, like, do you guys have any stevia? I mean, you got like Splenda and sugar, but I need stevia, and they're just like, what is this dude's problem? And my youth pastor buddy's like, dude, you're such a diva. Stop it. But I become this coffee snob now. But anyway, that's a glimpse into my life, and I know you're probably interested in that. But anyway, hey, I'm pumped to be here. I was a youth pastor for 11 years down in Lawton, Oklahoma. That's where I'm originally. I wasn't just a youth pastor. I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma, okay? I know what you're thinking right now. This dude is a straight-up thug. Because I am. Anyway, no, I'm not really a thug, but I got thug roots, okay? And I just got to say real quick, man, before I get into my message tonight, I absolutely love your youth pastors, Pastor Bailey and Pastor Micah, dude. Yes, give it up for them, man. Man, like, guys, I want you to hear me out for just a minute about them, okay? In my job, I get the opportunity to go to a lot of youth ministries and speak and do different things. And I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of youth pastors. And, man, I love hanging out with youth pastors. And it's a joy to me just to kind of hang out and get to know them and their families and be around them. But I'm telling you, man, what you guys have here, don't ever take for granted. Don't ever think, there's Pastor Micah and Bailey. No, guys, I'm telling you, they're absolutely amazing. And I'm telling you, they're doing an incredible job here. And, I was sitting in the back over there, like, as everything was kind of getting started tonight, and just kind of watching and, like, observing. I'm like a people watcher. I like to watch people. I'm not a stalker. I just like to watch people. It's just what I do, okay? And everybody's thinking, creeper. No, that's not who I am, okay? But I'm just chilling. I'm just kind of watching everybody kind of build a relationship, hang out, shoot baskets, chill, talk, kind of text, all these different things. And, man, I kind of felt this word come over me. And, I'm not the kind of person who kind of speaks a lot of stuff like this. But I just felt like as I was sitting back there and watching everything go on, watching the energy in the room, I just felt like the Lord was telling me, and especially to tell Micah and Bailey, that, man, this is only the beginning of what you guys have right here. And I believe wholeheartedly here in the next few weeks, man, you better get some more chairs, okay? Because, God's going to fill this place up. I believe that wholeheartedly. Their influence and what they do for this community, what they do for you, golly, it's so amazing, dude. And I know like I kind of shifted on you and went totally serious, but listen, man, I tell you, I felt it so strongly when I was in the back. And so, like, I tell you guys that because it's on you, too. It's not just on Pastor Micah and Pastor Bailey. It's on you as members of this youth group to take this responsibility and go to the next level. Just a few months ago, I was in Oklahoma City out of service, and a buddy of mine was speaking, and it was an event that I had the opportunity to host. And, I came up on the stage, and he's a guy that just kind of speaks words of life over everybody. And he told me, he's like, Heath, I believe that you're a gatherer of people. And so I tell you that story to tell you this, because when he placed that word over me, it became more than just a word. It then became my responsibility, if that makes sense. If you're going to call me you're going to call me a gather people, I'm going to do that very thing, because I believe you heard from God. So I know that God has given me that identity, and I now need to walk it out. So anyway, guys, man, tonight, like I said, I can't say enough about how amazing this church is and how special what you have here is. And so don't ever take that for granted, and take that responsibility on. Man, you're influencers. God has called you, and God has appointed you for such a time as this. And man, again, I believe that the best is yet to come in this youth ministry right here. So just get ready, all right? Look at your neighbor and say, get ready. All right, so anyway, man, hey, again, I say it one more time, don't take what you have here for granted. And if any of you treat them badly, this Southwest Oklahoma boy is going to come back, and the shady 580 is going to come out in me, all right? I'm a thug. I ain't playing, all right? And that's why I love Pastor Micah so much, because he is a true, authentic Southwest Oklahoma boy, reigning all the way from Duncan, Oklahoma, yo. So anyway, but he's South Oklahoma. I'm dirty South in Lawton, all right? So anyway, but I want to get into my message tonight. You guys that went to fine arts, or maybe other events that we have, we host here for Oklahoma Youth Ministries, one of them, camp. Yes, everybody excited about camp? I'm excited about camp. Dude, I can't wait to get down on some tire wars, you know what I'm saying? Pastor Micah showed me some videos of you guys you practice for that. This is insane. Like, you are serious about your tire wars. Good Lord, you're serious. So I'm gonna have to step up my game when you guys are at camp. So anyway, but I'm excited about camp, and I can't echo enough. Get signed up for camp. Invite somebody to go to camp with you, man. It's going to be an amazing time. I'm excited to see you guys there this summer. But again, just kind of going back to what I do. I'm a district youth director for the state of Oklahoma, and some of you are like, what does that mean? I really don't know what it means. But no, I get to hang out with youth pastors and other students. I think, with me being a youth pastor, I kind of understand their world. I understand your world a little bit as students. And so it's so fun going to different churches like this and just speaking life into you guys and challenging you guys. So I get the opportunity to speak into the lives of leaders. And so, anytime I go somewhere now, I want to give some sort of leadership style message, because again, when we say yes to Jesus, our life goes to a different level. And not only does our life go to a different level, but we have a new level of responsibility that we have to take on. And so I bring that up today because you guys have probably heard this phrase, or you've seen it, or you have the T-shirt that says "We over me." It's not just a little cute phrase we came up with. No, it's what we believe at Oklahoma Youth Ministries. It's we over me. When we say yes to Jesus, as we walk this thing out, as we get closer to Him, we were not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to do it by ourselves. And I think a lot of time what happens is we have this awesome experience, whether it be at a service or at a camp or some sort of conference that we go to, and it just stops right there because we don't take it any further than that. And one thing I want you to understand tonight about we over me is the whole idea of getting close to Jesus is not just that we alone can get close to Him, it's to bring others in. It's to bring others in. What I mean by that is we have a responsibility. As we get closer to Jesus, it's our responsibility to bring others in so they could get close to Him as well. And so tonight, I want to take you through a message that I wrote a while back, and man, it's one of my favorite to preach. I love preaching this message because, again, it's a challenge to you as students to go to the next level, not only in your relationship with Jesus, but to go to the next level in bringing people into this, making people a part of this, because that's so important. Man, I'm telling you, and I'm not just saying this as a cliche thing for a youth pastor or a minister to say, but there are literally people in your school every single day that are absolutely dying for you to invite them. They may not say it, they may not look like it, they may not act like it, but they are dying for you to invite them. And they may never show it, but they're just waiting for you to take that opportunity. And I don't think it's by coincidence that I'm here tonight, because it's Easter week. And, you know, Easter is one of the most popular days of the year where people just go to church. It's Easter. I guess I better go to church, you know. So that's what they think, you know. It's like, well, why are we going to church today? Because it's Easter, duh, you know. And so that's what they do. But what an opportunity for you, not only if you don't show up on a Sunday morning, hey, this is your opportunity to go to Sunday morning. And this is your opportunity maybe to invite somebody in your school, maybe to invite a family member. I don't know what it is, but it's our opportunity to bring somebody in. But I want you guys to understand something tonight. This message goes so much further than just bringing people in and just inviting people in. It's about who we are in our identity and who God has called us to be. Now, how many people, if you're being honest in here, you get a little apprehensive, get a little scared about talking to people, especially inviting them to church? Hang on, let me back up. Let me ask a different question. How many people you're here tonight because someone invited you? Maybe not tonight, but somewhere along the way, you're here tonight because someone in this building invited you to church. Let me see your hands. Come on. Come on. Don't be ashamed. It's okay. See, there's a few of y'all. All right, great. So that's the thing. You're here because someone took the time to invest in you. And so tonight, I want you to understand that there's time that you have to take. There's things that you have to do to invest. But but understand this. It is pretty scary sometimes inviting people to church, because let's just be honest, you know, Christians sometimes don't have the greatest reputation about who we are. Sometimes people think we're weird. Sometimes people think we're absolutely crazy, all right? Some people think that we're mean and we're racist and we're hateful and things like that. And so there's some things that like are already working against you, but it's just one of those things that we feel, and like there's like this apprehension. And I can't remember exactly where this stat is found, but it's a real stat. But they say that 80% or 85% of people would come to church if someone would just actually take the time to invite them. And I forget where that's found, but that's a real stat. But they're just waiting for you to invite them. But we feel this fear. But I want you to understand in Scripture it tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear. So you can't walk into it fearful. But sometimes, yes, we feel a little apprehensive. We feel a little inadequate. It's like, what in the world am I going to say to this person? You know, I can think of an example. Like the school of ministry that I went to, we had the opportunity to kind of just travel all over the nation. And we ministered in, like, different places. You know, we would minister in schools. We would minister at churches. Can I be honest with you guys tonight? Is that cool? Can I be real? Okay. Like, I hate, if you think I'm a horrible person like this, after I say this, I'm sorry, okay? I hate going to nursing homes, okay? Anybody else there with me? I know it's like, oh my gosh, you're a terrible person. No, I do. I not because like it's just like they smell funny or I get really sad. It's just like I had a bad experience at a nursing home one time, okay? A really bad experience. And so it was a week. We would do these things. Like, we would go to different places. Like I said, schools. We would go to churches. We would go to gyms. All these different places. And one particular week, they wanted us to go to a nursing home. And so I'm like, oh, man, I hate this. No, please don't make me go. And so, like, I'm just, the minute I walk in, I'm just literally just kind of standing there just scoping everything out, like freaking out. All the other students that I went to school with are like, hey, how's it going? They're talking to all these old people and stuff because you're like, oh, people are so cute. You know, I'm like, no, they're not. They're scary. Anyway, so there's something about me, though. Like, I am the kind of person, I tend to levitate to loners. Like, if I see somebody sitting by themselves, or if I see somebody who's just kind of like just separated from the group, my natural instinct is to go to talk to them. And so I'm sitting there really scared, but I'm the kind of person, too, that, like, I don't like to be scared for a long time, and I like to overcome my fears. So I was having all this self-talk going on in my head. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this, you know. And so I see this old man in a wheelchair just kind of chilling in the corner by himself, and he's just kind of got this look on his face. He's got this look on his face, and I'm like, man, nobody's talking to this guy. All the people that I go to school with are talking to all these other people. And so all of a sudden, sympathy begins to like fill up inside of me. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I get like this brave instinct that comes over me. I walk over to this guy. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing today, sir? And he just looks at me and goes, leave me alone. You know, I'm like, literally said those words, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. And so that ruined me for the rest of my life. So anytime I walk into a nursing home now, I'm just like, oh, God, the fear is coming back. You know, and so it's just, I have this weird feeling every time I go in there, but I do overcome, and I do what I need to do. But I just think of that example because sometimes, you know, we maybe have this feeling, this instinct, this quickening that comes over us, and we feel like, I need to invite that person to church. I need them to go to church on Wednesday night. I'm going to go up and talk to him. And then all of a sudden you go and talk to him, and maybe the words don't come out right, or maybe you ask them and they look at you to say, no, you know, and just walk off. You know, all these things happen. And those are things that are real life that really kind of just make us scared sometimes. But I want you to understand again, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility. We are to go into the world. We are to go into the worlds that we live in and bring people into this thing called Christianity. Bring people into a relationship with Jesus Christ. So if you got your Bibles, I want you guys to go to the book of Matthew. If they're on your phone, we'll have the scripture up on the screen right here. Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 13 through 16. Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. And now, let me guys give you a little bit of context of what's going on here. This is Matthew chapter 5. This is the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. And you're asking, what in the world is the Sermon on the Mount? This is the sermon that Jesus preached where we basically learn the foundation of our faith and what we're supposed to do as Christians and what we're supposed to do as followers of Christ. And he walked through this with us. And we just go around preaching these messages. And this right here is the very beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. And so we're going to pick up in Scripture in Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 6. And it says, you are the salt of the earth. But what good if it's salt, if it's lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It'll be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. I want you guys to say these words with me. You guys ready? You ready? Everybody say salt and light. Tasty and bright. Say salt and light. Tasty and bright. That's what we need to be as followers of Jesus Christ. Salt and light. Tasty and bright. The way we live our life should be so attractive. The way we live our life should be so full of flavor and so well lit that people want to be a part of this. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but like when you have the love of Jesus inside of you, and you know that you have the love of Jesus inside of you, and you know that he died for you, and you know that you have a relationship with him, people are naturally attracted to you. I don't know if you knew that. It's just all over you, and you may not think it's all over you. You may not think people can actually see it, but they can sense it, and they know that it's real. And so it's so important that we understand the responsibility to be salt and light in the world, because you may be the only taste of Jesus. You may be the only light of Jesus that people see for the rest of their life. And it could be only in this moment that you're in high school, or only in this moment that you're in middle school. You know, I tell people all the time, I know it's not good to have regrets in life, but I tell people this all the time, man. I wish I would have got this relationship thing down with Jesus Christ when I was still in high school. I was the kind of kid, I partied all through high school. I was always into the next relationship. I was always wanting to know what else was going on. I couldn't care less about going to church. I was the kind of kid, my mom tried. You ever seen that T-shirt that says Mama tried? That was my mom, all right? She tried, but she didn't fail, you know. But you know what I mean? But she had a tough time with me, okay? And so it's one of those things that I wish I would have made a better impact. And I look back to those times in high school where people literally jump out and took a risk with me. Hey, Heath, you want to go to church with us tonight? No, I'm good. Hey, Heath, you want to come to FC? No, I'm good. You know, all these different things where I was given opportunity, but I would never take advantage of the opportunity. And so now I look back and I see those things, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I did. And I know sometimes when it comes to talking to people about our faith, when it comes to talking to people about church and inviting them in, it could be the scariest thing, the most apprehensive thing that we ever deal with. But I love this quote right here, okay? Francis of Assisi once said this: always be preaching the gospel, and when necessary, use words. Always be preaching the gospel, and when necessary, use words. What in the world does that mean? It means your life should be an example of the love of Jesus Christ. That your life should exude everything that's about him, that you don't have to say a word. You don't have to sit there and tell people that you love Jesus. You don't have to rock the t-shirt that says, Jesus is my homeboy, because people know by the way you live your life. Salt and light, tasty and bright. Salt and light, tasty and bright. That is the way that God has called us to live. And we have an opportunity and responsibility to make sure people know what it's like, how good Jesus truly is. How good Jesus truly is, which I know sometimes it's hard to get across, but he's so good to us. And he's done amazing things. And people need to experience that as well. So it's so important that our life provides flavor. Have you ever had a bowl of popcorn with no salt or butter? It's horrible, I know. So it's like, oh, no, it's tasty. No, it's not. You're lying. Like, seriously. Like, why would you go to the extent of going to a movie theater and spending $30 on a bucket of popcorn and not douse that bad boy in salt and butter? You know what I'm saying? Why? Because it's flavorful. It's good. We love it. And that's what you're supposed to do. And that's the way it's supposed to be with our relationship. That's the way it's supposed to we are supposed to live our lives, to bring that flavor, that saltiness to people's lives. Now, I know I'm kind of old here, but like this wasn't too long ago that this happened. But like I remember a phrase that my students would use in the youth ministry was, when you did something messed up, they said, man, that's salty. Do you guys still say that? Yeah, it's like, is it salty? So it's like, it's still a negative thing, right? Like when you call somebody salty, you don't like them, right? So hey, what if we made salty positive? Think about that, all right? Like you walk in here, hey, Pastor Micah, I invited somebody to church. Man, that's salty. You know what I'm saying? Man, hey, Pastor Micah, check this out, bro. This dude, he's never been here before, but he's here tonight. Man, that's salty. So let me have you write this down. I'm getting kind of off key, but our life, salt and light, tasty and bright. So number one, if you're taking notes, write this down. Be tasty. Everybody say, be tasty. Now, how many people in here, you absolutely love food? Like you love taste. We should all love food. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. Like I've been doing the keto diet. Anybody ever tried that in here? Yes, I've been doing that. I really am not sure how much weight I lost, but like I've been doing that, and it's like sometimes it's really hard. Okay, it's really hard because sometimes I'll walk into a barbecue restaurant and I'll see like a rack of ribs with like all this barbecue sauce on it. And not only that, I want the mac and cheese. Load up on them carbs, baby. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I love that flavor. And so, be tasty. Provide that flavor in people's lives. Here's the thing, students. We have the greatest gift that we could ever offer anybody, and that's a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's the greatest gift that you could ever offer anybody. And I know sometimes we feel scared. I know sometimes maybe we've gone to the extent and asked somebody and they just said no. And then we asked somebody again and they just said no. Listen to me, students. Every no that you receive is a step closer to a yes. Now, guys, fellas, I'm talking to you for a minute. That doesn't mean you should keep asking that girl out over and over and over again, okay? If she said no, she means no, okay? No means no. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But seriously, every no is a step closer to a yes. So just because that person said no doesn't mean that the next one will. And we just keep inviting. And that's the thing, a lot of times, like I said, always be preaching the gospel. And when necessary, use words. If you're living it the way you need to be living it, hey, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I know none of us are perfect, but if you're living it the way you know you're supposed to be living it, man, people will naturally flock to you. Salt and light, tasty and bright. It's so important that people know, that people understand that the way that the gospel has changed our life, that people see that you're different now because of what God has done in you. And for some reason, we always have this feeling of like, man, I don't want to tell people about this because they're going to think I'm weird. No. You got to understand this, students. If the gospel isn't touching others through you, it hasn't truly touched you. That's hard to take sometimes. But we have to understand we are influencers. And the minute we say yes to Jesus, yes, there means our problems aren't going to go away, but we're influencers. We're called to do more. Why? Because Jesus went after us. Jesus paid the price for us. So be tasty. Don't be ashamed. I can't say this enough. Don't be ashamed by what God has done in your life. I know some of you are thinking, well, I'm not ashamed. No, but you are, because you won't tell people about it. If God changed your life, if God did something amazing inside of you, man, you tell people. And again, there are people in your schools, there are people in your jobs every single day that need to know what God has done in your life. And you may not have to say a word, but by the way you live it, salt and light, tasty and bright, you'd be surprised how people flock to you. But I think we get caught up sometimes, guys. We begin to talk ourselves out of these things. We feel like that we're not good enough. We don't feel like we know enough about the Bible. And like, that comes in time. You know, I didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden decide I wanted to be a pastor. I sure as heck didn't wake up one day and said I'm going to be the district youth director for the state. And I'm not one of those persons. I can't sit there and just spout every verse in the Bible that there is, but I try every single day. And I get into his word every single day. Why? Because I want to know more of him. And that's why we do it. But yet we are still so fixated on fitting in. Got quiet in here. We want to live for God, but we still want to keep this old life right over here. We want to live for God, but we still want to keep these friends that we know are eventually going to drag us down. Don't be ashamed of what he's done. And sometimes it takes separating yourself from the people you were once around, because God's going to put new people around you. But hear me. This is what you have to be aware of, because I think a lot of times this is where we get things misconstrued by going to church all the time. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it happens. I think sometimes we get so fixated on just being in church, we create these holy huddles. These us four, no more. I don't want any sinners in my group. You know, just, hey, guess what? We're all sinners, okay? We all mess up. We all fall short. We all make mistakes. Just because you have Jesus now doesn't make you better than people, okay? I want you to understand, I'm not trying to be harsh tonight, but I think sometimes we're doing good by separating ourselves from that old life. But again, it's about bringing others in. It's about being that gatherer. You know, I was the kind of youth pastor, man. I used to get a lot of ridicule from people in the city, for some people in the church sometimes. Like, you know, I was the kind of youth pastor, man. I wanted every single outcast there was. I didn't care if you were the kid that used to smoke weed all the time. I didn't care if you were the gay kid, man. You know what? God loves you, and he can change your life. And those are the kind of people that came to our youth ministry. And we saw story after story of kids' lives being changed, of them letting go of lifestyles, of them letting go of addictions. Why? Because someone took the time to invest in them. Why? Because someone wasn't ashamed. Why? Because someone didn't settle for the status quo and just wanted to fit in with the rest of the world. And I think sometimes we get so fixated on that. I just want to fit in. I just want to be normal. We're not called to be normal. We're called to do more for him. Salt and light, tasty and bright. Earlier, I got the opportunity to kind of stand in with the student leadership team. And Pastor Micah shared a quote with me that was by Dr. Seuss. And I I feel like you guys need to hear it tonight. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Dr. Seuss said that. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? And that's how this whole thing works, man. Like you've been called to something higher now. And I'm not talking ministry, but here's the thing. All of us, God has something better for us and amazing things for us. So again, number one, we're to be tasty. We'll provide that flavor to people's lives. Number two, be bright. Look at your neighbor and say, be bright. We go back to verse 14 where it tells us this. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Everybody say salt and light, tasty and bright. We're called to be that light. And sometimes, I always think of that old school song, This Little Light of Mine. Anybody remember that song? Sure you? I'm gonna let it I'm not going to sing. You guys won't like that. Okay. But that's what I think of. Like, we got to let it shine. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. Let people know that you belong to Christ. Be that kind of person that you see that loner in your school, or that person that everybody picks on and messes with. You be different. Be the kind of person that goes after that person that you know who has a reputation in the school. Or that person that you know is partying every single week. Here's the thing, guys. I was that guy, and someone took the time on me. I know sometimes when we say yes to Jesus and we start living a better way, we don't want the people with the reputations, the people with the addictions coming into our place like this. But hey, it's for them too. And I know a lot of people say, light and dark, that can't mix. And that's true. But us being the light, we're supposed to provide direction for the dark. And that doesn't make us better than anybody, but we're that light. We shine through. And we let people see that salt and light, tasty and bright, inside of us. Number one, be tasty. Number two, be bright. Don't be ashamed. Jesus paid a price for you. Jesus died for sinners, and so why can't we take our relationship a step further and live for them? I know it's not an easy thing to do, but again, man, like I'm the kind of guy, I don't want the we over me mentality that we're trying to instill in Oklahoma Youth Ministries to die. I don't want it to be just a cute phrase. I want it to be what we live. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's a part of the circle. Everybody's inclusive. Everybody can be a part. A few years ago, we were at the church I was working at. We were doing some renovations, and I was moving my office, and I had to pack everything up, and so I found this box of just like a bunch of those old Reader's Digest magazines. You guys probably don't know what those are, but anyway, it's like a magazine that has like these self-help things and cool stories in it. And I think that one of the preachers who were there a while back used to read all these and get like really cool sermon illustrations and stories from them. And so I'm tired because I've been moving stuff all day long, and I pick up one of these Reader Digest magazines and I just open it up, and I read this phrase in big bold letters that says the power of caring. And so I was intrigued, and so I sat down and went and got a bottle of water and started to read it. And it was a story about two young men. One young man, his name was Chris, and the other one name was Jeff. And I can't remember the writer of this story, but it was a story in the Reader's Digest magazine. But Jeff was a kid in middle school. He's kind of your weird, awkward, nerdy. People would look at him and like just would pick on him all the time, mess with him all the time. You know, they're constantly just messing with him. People were just like pushing him in his locker and all this stuff, just real harsh. And then there was a kid by the name of Chris, and Chris was kind of like your all-American boy, athletic. You know, he was the kind of kid you always wanted to pick for dodgeball. You know, played football, and people just liked him even in middle school. And you look at their upbringings, and you know, Chris had a real good family life, and didn't really know much about Jeff's family life. And again, he was just kind of a quiet kid. And one day, school had ended, and the weekend was there, and there was always a big group of kids that always walk home from school. Chris was one of them, and Jeff was the other one. And they really didn't hang out. They weren't in the same groups because, again, Jeff was kind of a loner. And so one particular day, it's a Friday. The bell rings, school's over, and you just see Jeff walking down the street, all these other kids, and Jeff has this pile of books in his hand. He's carrying probably like 6 to 7 books. And so, again, as mean and as harsh as some of these kids were to him, you know, a group of these boys came over and just like ran over and bumped into him, and books just fly everywhere and paper fly everywhere, and he just hits his knees and is just sobbing. Just can't. It's just absolutely sobbing. So he's trying to put everything together. Chris, popular, well-liked, athletic, all-American boy, sees this whole thing go down. So Chris turns around, walks over to Jeff, and starts helping him pick up his books. He gets all the papers put back in him, and Jeff just kind of like begins to take his shirt and just kind of wipe the tears out of his eyes. And it's kind of an awkward moment. Chris doesn't really know what to say. And so he's like, come on, man, I'll walk with you. And so it's just kind of an awkward silence. And Chris looks at Jeff and he says, man, what are you doing with all these books? So Jeff kind of cracks a smile and doesn't really say much. And just they start talking for a little bit, and they're walking home. And finally they come up to Jeff's house, and Jeff says, man, I'll see you later. Thanks for your help. And he's walking into the house, and then Chris stops, and he says, hey, you know, every Saturday we get together down at the park and play basketball. I don't know if you play, but, hey, you're welcome to come hang out. And so you just see, like, just Jeff's face begins to illuminate, and he's just so excited. He says, yeah, man, I'll be there. And so he shows up at the court, and they hang out. And fast forward just a little bit later on in life, they go from middle school into now they're in high school and in their senior year getting ready to graduate. And during this time, Chris and Jeff just became the best of friends. Hang out all the time. You know, I mean, just going to different parties together, girlfriends, everything, just having a great time. And, you know, Jeff really kind of began to develop and, you know, was filling out and became pretty attractive young man and very well liked in the school, and people started to like him. He was really popular, and you know, Chris was kind of the same reputation, and they just kind of known as great friends. And graduation day's coming, and they found out just a few days before that Jeff was voted the valedictorian of their senior class. And for those of you that you maybe been to a graduation, you know the valedictorian always gives a speech. And normally that speech is the kind of speech that, you know, you say something motivational. You talk about how much you love your senior class and how great these years have been in your life, and that's pretty much it. But Jeff's story was a little different. Jeff got up there and talked about that day back in middle school. Jeff began to tell the senior class and all the families in the crowd, you know, there was a day where my life was horrible. My parents were on the brink of divorce. Every day that I go to school, I just absolutely hated it. I got so tired of just dealing with it over and over again. So the final week that I just had enough, I decided that Friday when I went home from school, I was going to take my life. And the reason why I had all my books, I just felt like I didn't want the school janitor to have to clean out my locker once they heard the story about me, so I just did the work for him. And I knew that's what I needed to do, and when things went on and these kids started messing with me, knocked out the books out of my hand, and I knew I just broke down because I couldn't take it anymore. But then a friend came my way and changed my life forever. And he's in the crowd today, and I just want to say thank you to my best friend Chris for taking the time for me to see what kindness looks like. I tell you that story today because that's how I'm reminded of the love of Jesus Christ. He goes after the individual. He goes after the loner. He goes after the people that need him. And when we say yes to Jesus, we have that same responsibility to go after the loner, to go after the outcast, to go after the people that need him. That's why I love that song, the reckless love of God. Because the love that we receive from him, it just doesn't make any sense. We're so flawed. We're so messed up. We make so many mistakes. Why in the world would he ever love me? But he does. So students tonight, I share this message with you. I share this story because, again, we have a responsibility. We are to be salt and light, tasty and bright. Our life should be a living example of what it's truly like to have a wonderful relationship with Jesus Christ. And so if you're someone in this room tonight and you're here because someone invited you to be here, maybe that's tonight, maybe you've been here for a while, I don't know what it is. But what if we started paying it forward? What if we started doing more? What if we started looking for the Jeffs? What if we're the Chris's and, we set aside all of our own ambitions, all of our own popularity, all of the fitting in that we feel like we need to do, and go after those people that truly need Jesus. You may not know it, but again, the power of kindness, you never know what your kind words could do for somebody.